Hey everybody, Steve the Hurricane here. Very excited for this webinar. As always, I love you guys so much. And we're going to have some fun today. I'm going to go through some great stuff with you. And this is just part one of how to build a $5 million home care business. So I'm just giving everybody a couple seconds to get on. There's people jumping on every second now, and numbers climbing as we had, I think, like 280, 300 people signed up for this webinar. Hi, Vince. How are you? Welcome. Glad that you're here, buddy. Good times. As always, we're going to have some fun. You know me. This is going to be some good stuff, and we're going to go through a bunch of different things, too. Hi, Kiana. All right, Kiana, I'm going to tell you right now. What are you doing July 25th, 26th, and 27th, huh? July 25th, 26th, and 27th, Kiana. What are you doing? I know what you're doing. You're coming up to St. Louis, right? Ha, ha, ha. Judah Schuster, my man, over there representing, bringing it down, holding it down. It's been a long time, my brother. I'm glad to see you on this webinar, too. You're going to get a lot out of this, as always, but you know me. I've been working with you for so long, so I'm very excited about having you on this webinar, too, my friend. I hope there's other people from the organization there listening, too, as we go through this. It's going to be fun. We're going to have some good times. But again, this is a two-part webinar. So this is the first part. The second part will be done in 2 months. And I'm going to go through a bunch of different stuff with this. I want to give everybody another minute to get on as the population is increasing now. We're getting closer to 100 people on live. Like I said, we had 200 and I think like 268 or 270 people registered for this bootcamp, for this webinar, and more people are coming on every minute here. So just want to give them a full second to get on. And we're going to do this webinar a little bit different than one I've done in the past. All right, so I'm going to be on the webcam with you so you can actually see me there, folks. So how you doing? Steve the Hurricane here, and I want to just throw a special shout out to one of my clients, Stephanie, down in Texas in the Lone Star State at the Denver Bootcamp. Stephanie came running up to me, and she's like, thank you for all that you do and helping us grow our business. And she gave me this shirt here. Just give me some Southern hospitality, some Southern love, some big state Texas love. So all my people down in Texas, thank you. Stephanie specifically, thank you for this shirt. I love Texas, even though I'm here in New Jersey where it is cold out. It's 51 degrees. So we're going to get started. Randy, yes, you can get my email afterwards, and you can reach out, and you can talk to my staff and my team, and they can make an appointment for us to speak if it's something that's urgent or if it's something that they can help you with. They can definitely help you. You don't want to talk to me. I don't follow up with people very often. I'm traveling all over the place. As a matter of fact, tomorrow I'm actually going to be leading a 23-hour prayer vigil at my church. And so I'm a full-time deacon. Jesus is my Lord and Savior, and I serve. So I'm constantly on the go between my faith and things I'm doing there and with the business even more when it comes to traveling, where every other week I'm in another state. So if you look at the last 6 weeks for me personally, I was in California twice for 2 different events. One was my boot camp, one was a private conference that I was the keynote speaker at. And then also I was in Louisiana the week before last, where I was doing a private boot camp training. The week after next, I'll be in New York City. I'm going back to Louisiana as well for something else. And then I'm going to Washington State. That's in the next 3 or 4 weeks. So if you're trying to reach out to me personally, don't. Contact my office staff, and they can help you with whatever it is that you need, including if you want me to come speak at one of your events. So just sending that out there. But anyway, now that you can see me, this is good. Let me share the screen. Boom, you can see the screen right now. So we should be all set. Let me go ahead and start the recording. All right. So, hey everybody, Steve the Hurricane here, and this is part one of how to generate $5 million in revenue in a single year. And I'm very excited about this because it just gives me an opportunity to share with you just how possible this really is. Because a lot of people don't think that this is a possible number to hit, and it is, but you have to know the numbers, and you're going to have to work hard, because $5 million is not a number that many home care companies achieve. As a matter of fact, it represents like the top 5% of all private pay home care businesses. So with that being said, you have a lot of things going against you for you to be able to be successful and have this $5 million business, but rest assured, this is why you're here, and I'm going to go through it. Now, before I go through it, I am going to mention this to you right now. The Millionaires Bootcamp, I do these private boot camps all around the country. We do them 3 times a year, but there's 3 different boot camps. So we do the Referral Masters Bootcamp, which we just had in California a month ago. Then we have the 2.0 Bootcamp, which builds upon the Referral Masters. And then we have the Millionaires Bootcamp. And the Millionaires Bootcamp is really how to scale your business 7 figures and beyond to that multi-million-dollar, upper echelon, top 20% of all home care businesses coast to coast, how to do that. And we're going to talk about hospital marketing and creating preferred provider groups and adding care coordination and exit strategies and so much more. Great guest speakers. We have 3 guest speakers coming in. So much information in 3 days. It's action-packed. The tickets are $9.99. Full price, and I'm going to tell you ahead of time right now that we actually have an early bird special going on, and we only have 5 tickets left for the early bird. So if you want to get that early bird saved 40% off, you better buy that ticket like ASAP because it's going to run out. Saturday is also the last day for anybody to get the early bird anyway, so make sure you take care of that and you get that done right away. Now, let's jump into this, all right? So for part 1, because it's going to take, there's a lot here. You know, the reason why I have the boot camp is because I need 3 days to really train you on everything on generating $5 million. But here today, I'm going to give you kind of like a 10,000-foot overview, and it's really an intro to it because how to get it, that's the second part of it, like the marketing plan and how we're going to generate this and how many referrals we need and where they're going to come from and how many referrals from each account and all of that. That's the second part of it. It's coming up in May. But the first part today, I'm going to really go through and identify, you know, just how possible is this. We have to know who our target customer is, how to find a target customer, how to get a lot of those target customers to be able to do it. Like, what are the actual numbers behind generating $5 million a year? And then once you do that, how much is this going to cost? Because I want to generate $5 million. That sounds fantastic, but it takes money to make money. How much money do I have to spend if I want to generate $5 million in revenue? And this is just part marketing because there's other things that we have to spend too. It's a little bit more, and I'll go over as you see here. But it's going to cost us significant revenue. However, to just put this out there to you, when you're doing $5 million a year in total revenue as a home care business owner, that means that you as the owner should be netting for yourself at least $1 million. So $5 million for my business is $1 million for me as the owner. Now, I don't know anybody in their right mind who doesn't want to make $1 million a year. How to do that is right here. But is it possible? What's it going to cost? It takes money to make money. I'm going to go through that. And then I'm going to address the caregiver crisis because it is a crisis out there. I understand. We got to get caregivers. We got to get caregivers. We got to get caregivers. I was on the phone this morning with one of my clients in New Hampshire for an hour talking about caregivers and getting caregivers. We could grow our business if. I'm going to address that. How do you overcome that? What are the things that we have to do to get better at caregiver recruiting and retention? All of that is coming in this hour. So let us go, my brothers and sisters, and jump right into this. And I also want to give a very special thank you and a shout out to the Home Care Pulse. And I'm hoping somebody from Home Care Pulse is watching this because I love what they do. The benchmark study is fantastic. What it allows us to do is get an overview as to what is going on in our industry. And I believe when I looked at the study from last year that they surveyed 12 to 1,300 agencies all around the United States in all 50 states. So when you look at what's going on with 12, 1,300, that gives you a pretty good idea as to what's happening in the entire industry everywhere. So I pull up a lot of statistics from there. So this way you know it's not just me saying this. Like, I don't want you to trust me. For those of you who just met me for the first time, you don't know me at all. Okay, this is who I am. Like, why should you listen to Steve the Hurricane? I went on Google and I looked up home care marketing. I saw this guy, Steve the Hurricane, and he has hundreds of videos. And I started watching the videos, and this guy makes a lot of sense. That's why I'm here. Or maybe you've heard me at a conference, but you've never actually worked with me before. You've never been to a boot camp. You never have actually been a client. Like, why should you listen to me? And you see the firsthand for over 10 years. I was a director of business development for a private duty home care company for several years. Then I became the vice president, part owner of that company, turned around several years later, flipped it, sold it for several $1 million, and then I started Hurricane Marketing Enterprises, my company right here, which is how I'm able to reach you today. 6 years later, I've helped more than 400 agencies through our coaching program increase their revenues by more than $400 million. And that's what we've done over the last 6 years. I'm very proud of that, and I'm excited to say that because it's truth. And I want you to be able to have the same kind of experience that I had, that my clients are having, because I know what's possible out there when you open your mind, you actually put forth the true trained effort to be able to do it. And I know it's not an easy business. Okay, my background, when I first got into this business, I was in the dairy industry. I sold milk. I sold Cutco knives before I sold milk products. And so it was a perfect balance for me having the Cutco knife experience that helped me to sit down with a customer who, at the time, they already had knives, but if I could sell them knives, it made it easy when I'm offering home care to sell home care services. When I was in the dairy industry, it was persistence that I learned because I was constantly going to restaurants and supermarkets and convenience stores selling them my dairy products, which they already had a distributor. You don't need more than one distributor for this product. They already had a distributor, but I learned persistence because I knew that they had a contract with somebody that could be 3 months from expiration, 6 months, 9 months, a year, 18 months before they expire. And if I developed a relationship, when the time comes for expiration, they're going to renew with me and sign with me, not with somebody else. So I learned that persistence. So when I started to go to referral sources, although I knew nothing, this is something I say all the time, I knew nothing. The joke that I tell people, which for those of you who have heard me before, you know I say this, the acronym ADLs, Activities of Daily Living, that was a disease to me. I thought that was Lou Gehrig's disease for the first 6 years 6 months on the job in the business. I didn't know anything about healthcare, but I knew sales and marketing. I understood those concepts that I'm going to teach you today, and I put them to use in my execution, and that's why I was able to go out there and blow up my business, generating $115,000 a week, $5 million a year, turn around, flip it, and sell it for several $million, and now I am here today, the owner of a 7-figure a year marketing company supporting hundreds of home care businesses all around the country, speaking at boot camps and everything else. That's who I am. That's why I want you to hear and trust what I'm saying, because it's not me. It's the people that I've helped before. It's where I've been. I'm going to share firsthand experiences with you. So now, who is our target customer? Because if of all things, like I want to be successful, Steve. I want to grow this. I want to have a $5 million home care business. How can I do it? Well, the first thing, like this is sales and marketing 101. You have to identify who your target customer is so that you can find your target customer. And our target customer is real simple. These are nerds, okay? You see it on the screen right now, nerds. Nerds, N-E-R-D-S. We are looking for nerds. Now, nerds stand for people who have a need, a great need. People in the hospital, people in rehab centers, people who have fallen and broken a hip. These folks have a great need. Second, we're looking for elderly. So once we understand that we know we're looking for people with a need, we got to find the elderly patients. I mean, some of us offer pediatrics and whatnot, but really our target customer is the elderly, somebody who lives by themselves, whose family or friends are far away, and they can't get the help that they need. That's who we're looking for. In addition to this, the R stands for resources, because we're looking for private pay clients. There are plenty of them out there, and I know people, I get every once in a while I get somebody say, Steve, my territory is terrible. All I have are Medicaid clients. And I ask that client or that person, when someone says that to me, I say, let me ask you, do you have assisted living communities anywhere in your territory? Oh, yeah, we have assisted living communities. We have CCRCs. We have independent living residences and so on. And I was like, all right, well, if you live in a territory where you have those type of accounts I just mentioned, that means that there are people in your territory that have money. Like when you look at the senior population, only 40%, which is a lot, that's 2 out of 5, but only 40% of the senior population is on Medicaid. The other 60% are on Medicare, and that means that they have some type of resources. It may not be unlimited, but they have some type of resources. And so I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but that's what we're looking for, people with resources who are elderly, who have a great need. And then the D stands for disabled or dementia or both. And the reason why this makes sense is because anybody who's disabled, like if they're permanently disabled, like a massive stroke, think about the diagnosis we're dealing with, the people that we see on a regular, consistent basis for a moment. Somebody who has a massive stroke may never walk again. They're bedbound. That person is disabled. As a matter of fact, stroke happens to be the number one cause of long-term disability. Somebody who has Parkinson's disease, that person's probably not driving anymore. That is a disability. They have a need, and if they have resources, they're probably going to need help getting to appointments, keeping the house clean, cooking, and doing all the things that we do as private duty care providers. And then obviously I put down dementia because a lot of times we get clients who are physically okay, but they're demented and they're not able to function and take care of themselves. They have advanced Alzheimer's. They're stuck in a time warp where it's like 1937, 1940, and they're still a child or they're a teenager, and that's the memory, that's where they are, even though it's 2018. And so as a result of that, this is why people need our help. So if you understand that I am looking in my territory for people who have a great need, who are elderly with resources, and they're disabled and or have dementia, that's my target customer. That is the base foundation to be able to generate $5 million per year. Forget everything else you know. This is who we're looking for, all right? That is super, super important to us. So now, I want to just take a moment here. I want you to think to yourself, like, Steve, is this really possible? Because $5 million a year is a lot of money. It's a lot of revenue that has to be generated. Can my market handle it? Well, let's find out. We now know who our target customer is. So let's take this another step further. Do you know your MRP? Your maximum referral potential. This is super important. The other day I was actually driving up to go see my accountant doing some tax stuff. Good old Uncle Sam, love him, right? I was driving to see my accountant, and I did a Facebook Live on how to calculate your MRP, but I wanted to give you the actual formula behind it because this is important, because once you know what your potential is in your market, you'll see just how possible it is to obtain $5 million in revenue. And that's not even with the lion's share of the referrals. You can have a small percentage of the referrals available in your market of those nerds when you understand your max referral potential. So MRP, you can just write that down on your paper somewhere or make a note of MRP because that is vital for you to know for your success in your home care business. Now, you're going to need to know two things. You got to know the census. What is the census of my territory? And where do you find it? Just the U.S. Census 2010. Is it accurate? It's accurate enough to give you this number when you take a look at it. But the census numbers are important, so know your census. And then you got to know the Medicare stats. What I love about Medicare is a benefit paid for by the people of the nation, and we all pay into it our entire lives, right? And people get this benefit, and it's because it's a publicly provided insurance and people pay into it, all of the information is publicly accessible. So you can go to Medicare.gov, which is a great resource. You can look at many articles. I'm actually going to reference an article or two in the presentation in a little bit that you can take a look at, and they can give you all of the Medicare facts or statistics that exist to help you so you can determine your max referral potential, your MRP. So once you know that, you're good to go. So now let's just take a look at some territory sizes, right? Like, here's a good number. Many of us have 500,000 people in our service area. So I'm going to use it as the example. Now, if you were like me back when I was doing this, I'm in New Jersey. We're one of the most we are the most densely populated state in the country. We all live on top of each other, right? Like Gutenberg, New Jersey is the most densely populated town in the world, right? The town of Gutenberg is a tenth of a mile. That's how big it is, a tenth of a mile, but like 100,000 people live there, right? A tenth of a mile, 100,000 people live there. Just do the math, right? 100,000 people, a tenth of a mile. So we are the most densely populated state. So as a result, my service area that I covered geographically was about 30 minutes in any different direction. Like if I went from my office north 30 minutes, 30 minutes south, which is a 1 hour diameter in my service area, I could travel that. Within that hour's time, that was 1.5 million people. So I had a tremendous territory because of densely population. So I was able to actually really bring it down. But no matter where you are in the country, many of us are part of franchises, and I know some of the franchises out there, and most of us are getting anywhere from 250 to 800,000 people in our service area, depending on where you live and what your territories you purchased and everything else. So 500,000 people is a very realistic, very good number to focus on. Now, why did I use 15%? From the U.S. Census, no matter where you are in the country, roughly 15% of the population are 65 and older. So remember back to our nerds, the elderly represent 15% of your population. Now, obviously, if you're in Palm Springs, California, or you're in Boca Raton, Florida, your percentage of the population who are seniors might be like 25% or even 30%. There are other marketplaces where you only have 10%. But good rule of thumb is 15% of your population is going to be age 65 plus. So out of 500,000 people, that gives you 75,000 seniors. So now we're going to jump to some Medicare statistics for a moment. Medicare statistic says that 1 out of every 3 people on Medicare will be hospitalized in any given year. That's a Medicare fact. That's how much money they're spending. Think about it. People 65 plus, the people who are going to the hospital every single year, they're not usually 65, early 70s. It's people 75 and older, which represent a third of that population. So logically, it makes sense. But that is what the numbers are. I think the actual number is like 32 point whatever. But roughly 33% are going to be hospitalized. So that means that if I have 500,000 people in my territory, 75,000 seniors, from 75,000 seniors, I'm going to have 25,000 hospitalizations in any given year in my territory. So I can imagine right now staying right here with, great state of Texas. If I'm in Houston, Texas, I could have 40 hospitals in and around the greater Houston area, which is, 8 million, 9 million people in and around the greater Houston area. And those hospitals are going to generate hundreds of thousands of hospitalizations every single year. One really big hospital alone can do 5,000 discharges in a year. The average hospital does about 2,400 discharges. So if I have 3 hospitals in my territory, 2,400 discharges apiece, that's 7,500 hospitalizations. So this math that you're seeing here makes sense when you look at the size of the population, and that's how the government does things. So Medicare is saying that a third of all the people who are 65 plus on Medicare are going to get hospitalized every single year. So now we got to dig a little deeper. And this is straight out of an article that I found in Forbes magazine. All right. So there's an article in Forbes magazine. You can see the site down there at the bottom. It was written a couple of years ago, but the stats haven't changed. And it basically says right here, this middle column is the one that's the most important, that 20% of older Americans suffer from 5 or more chronic conditions. And those people represent 75% of all Medicare spending. Why? Because they're constantly in and out of the hospital with admissions and what's that second word, folks? You could say it. Readmissions, right? What is Medicare trying to do? And I want you to think for a moment here. You are the government, not the president. You are the government. You are the government of the United States. As the government of the United States, you are responsible for 360 million people. Out of that 360 million people, about 40, 50 million of them are on Medicare, okay? So out of this 40, 50 million people on Medicare, I am spending billions and billions and hundreds of billions of dollars to take care of this 15% of the population, 40 to 50 million people. Now, from that, all right, like I just told you before, 80% have a good enough percentage where if they go to the hospital, they will go home, recover, and live the rest of their days and not be readmitted and all that other good stuff. 80%. So, as a result, being the government, and I got to take care of all these people, I am not going to put any more money into helping this population because we have an 80% success rate. 4 out of 5 people get enough care from what we're doing that I'm not going to put any more money into it. And so now this leaves that last 20%, the people with 5 more chronic conditions, who are going to constantly be readmitted over and over and over again. And I'm the government. I'm not going to put any more money into this because logically it makes sense. We have a 4 out of 5 success ratio. That's good enough. We got to pay for other things. Our money has to go all over the place to care for this country and help out internationally and all the things that we do, right? So that means that now that 20%, they'll be rehospitalized over and over again, but the government's not going to do anything else about it. So it's up to that person to do something on their own. It's up to the system, healthcare, us, hospitals, rehabs, home health, hospices, and so on and so forth, to work together to refer one another and bring in the additional resources that are needed beyond what Medicare is going to cover. Enter private duty. Enter us. This is where we fit into the equation. So now, let's go back, right? You have 25,000 hospitalizations in your territory, and 20% are going to be the nerds. That means if I have 500,000 people, every year there will be 5,000 nerds in my territory, people who have a need, people who are elderly, people with resources, and people who are disabled and or have dementia. 5,000 in a territory with 500,000 people. Now, I know some people, I don't even have to look at the questions. I will look at the questions here. But I already know there's people out there saying, well, I only have 250,000 people in my territory, Steve. Great. You have 250. That means you have 2,500, just think about it, 2,500 nerds every single year in your territory. That is your max referral potential. You're never going to get your max referral potential. So let's see some of these questions up here. Okay, what is a good way to market to assisted living communities? Robert, that's why you come to the boot camp, all right? Very good question, all right? But anyway, 5,000 nerds in your territory. If I have 250,000 people, that's 2,500 nerds in my territory every year. If I have 750,000 people, that is 7,500 nerds in my territory. Basically, when you do all of this math, I broke it down the long way so that you can understand where these numbers are coming from. It's going to be 1% of your population. Real easy, because we know 15% are seniors. Out of that 15%, a third of them, which is 5%, are going to end up going to the hospital. And then for that 5%, 20%, which is 1%, are going to end up needing help beyond what Medicare covers to stay out of the hospital, or they're going to be readmitted over and over again. And that's where Medicare spends 3/4 of all of their money on that population. That's who we're targeting. That's who we're looking for. These are the nerds. So now that you understand that, let's go further with this, though, right? Because this is good. This is good, all right? Or actually, let me ask you. I think this is good. Do you think this is good? You could type yes in the question there. Yes, is this good? You understand who nerds are and our numbers and stuff? Is this good? Because I'm self-conscious like that. You can go ahead and type yes in there if it's good. All right, good. Yes. Good. We love it. All right, I love you too, Alicia. You're phenomenal. Kiana, I love you too. All right, good. So people, you're with me. Just making sure everybody's with me still. All right. So now we go on further. This is straight from Home Care Pulse again. All right. And I like to let me just turn so you can see what I see. Let me see if I can do this. And hopefully you can see my computer because you can see the computer screen so you can see what I'm pointing at, but I also like to point and reference. All right. So hopefully you see this in there. Nick, am I on the screen? You can come over and just come in the room and tell me if you can see this, all right? So what I love about this right over here, we have to do what the leaders are doing. Home Care Pulse breaks everybody down into 3 categories. You have people who are doing $0 to $800,000, people doing $800,000 to 1.6, people doing 1.6 to 2.8 million, and then 2.8 million and beyond. The average leader, when they actually looked at what the average leader was doing, they're doing about $4.5 million. So this number right here represents people doing pretty much $4.5 million. That's the median person on the survey here. That's $5 million business. That's who we're trying to find. That's what we're trying to do. So in order to do what they're doing, we have to do what they're doing, all right? Now, a lot of this, and you think to yourself, well, why is it that the leaders' clients are worth so much more than somebody getting started? Well, it's simple. There's several things. One, it's the kind of clients they're getting. They're getting sicker clients with greater needs. Two, they are established. They've been around for a while. But although I know there are a lot of people in this category up here who have been around for a while too, and that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get the business. But really, you know what this is? They know how to close business. They know how to convert an inquiry into an assessment, and then they know how to sign. Also, a lot of the people in this category are charging what they're supposed to charge, which is an above average price, because when you know how to close, you have a strong demand. Supply creates the demand. I don't have enough caregivers. I got a ton of demand. I'm going to increase my rates, and so therefore a client to the leader is worth more than the average person. These are all high-level things that I discussed at the boot camp, right? So this is important to know. So if I want to do $5 million, my clients should be worth about $16,500, $17,000 financial lifetime revenue. And just throwing this out there to you folks, for those of you who know me, or if you don't know, my clients were worth $28,800. Back in the day, my average client was with us. They spent $28,800 with us. We have many clients with us for years, but 28.8 was our number. So we had specialty programs geared around live-in, geared around 24/7, geared around 84-hour-a-week cases, and so on and so forth. All right. So it's just something to know. This right here, fewer clients, higher revenue per client because the people have the greater need. That's going to help you get to $5 million. So just think about that for a moment. I'll come back to it later on. Let that sink in. Food for thought. We'll come back later on. All right. So back to, is this possible, okay? Because I know it is possible. But let's see, there we go. Is this possible? So, yeah, it is possible. If you want to do $5 million in a year divided by $16,500, that means you have to generate 300 clients in a year. That's a lot of clients. Okay? I mean, it's 300 new clients in a year, because each client on average is going to bring in $16,500. 300 clients in a single year. Now check this out. If you're a leader, here's the conversion ratios. Now look at these numbers, all right? People who are relatively new, you convert at 30%. People who've been around, or people who are doing okay, 800 to 1.6 million, you convert also at 30%. Your conversion ratio hasn't improved from inquiry to admission, meaning somebody calls in, and they're now starting on services. So for this person in this category, the first two people doing less than $1.5 million basically a year, for every 10 inquiries, you get 3 clients. Not bad, but it can be better. The people who are doing 1.5 to 2.5, they're a little bit better at 33%, but still not much better. But look at the people who are the leaders. Look at the leaders. Their rates we know are higher. We know it. They're the leader. They've been around forever. They got a reputation. Their rates are higher than everybody else's. But they convert at 40%, or almost 39.5%. 40% conversion ratio. Now, I know why it is. They have an inquiry management process. They have a closing process. It's as simple as that. When you know how to handle a lead, a nerd calls in, you know how to handle it, you're going to convert that person into a customer. It's as simple as that. So if you don't have that, this is what I do, right? I help people do this all the time. Increase your conversion ratios. So go back to the numbers, right? We have ourselves, remember, I need 300 new clients. So 300 new clients is 40% conversion ratio. So that means I got to take this number, multiply by 2.5 to get 100%. It's going to give me 750 referrals. So that means I have to generate 750 referrals in a single year. So just stay with these numbers. Stay with me here. I'm going to answer a question. Let me see, my mouse is good. All right. So here's the next thing. 750 referrals that we have to get from 5,000 is the potential. That's only 15%. That's only 15% of your max referral potential. This is why I love doing this, because when you break it down, this is over the course of an entire year. All right, it's over the course of an entire year. So don't, this isn't going to be overnight, but over the course of 12 months, from today to today next year, there's 5,000 people for a 500,000 population that are going to need our services. We only have to capture 15% of those, and not as clients. 15% of those as a referral, because we're going to convert 40% into 300 new clients. That is going to get. So when you look at it now, let's break it down even further. Right? I'm going to get my calculator because I didn't do this on the webinar here. So I need to get 750 referrals. All right, divided by 52 weeks in a year. That's 14 to 15 referrals a week. That's 60 referrals a month. Those are the numbers that I was bringing in. That's why I'm signing on 200, 300 clients. That's why I'm bringing in $5 million in revenue. That's what it takes, 14 to 15 referrals in a week. Can your territory do it when you understand your max referral potential? I guarantee everybody listening here. Even now, go a little further, all right? If I'm the person who has just 250,000 people in my territory, because I want to cover everybody, right? So that means I have 2,500 nerds in my area, but I need to get 750 of them. So 750 divided by 750 divided by 2,500, that's 30%. So you got to get 30%. Now that would be the lion's share. 30% of your max referral potential would be the lion's share. But is it possible? Yeah. You know how? Creating preferred providers groups. That's how, which is one of the topics at the boot camp coming up. So how do you create it? ACOs, right? The home health, the hospice, and everybody else, they're all together. How do I get in there as the preferred provider of that entire group? That's how you're going to get 14, 15 referrals every single week. That's what I'm going to go over at the boot camp. That's why you got to sign up and come to the boot camp. I need you for 3 days. I need 3 days to train you with it. You got to get hospitals referring you, right? Because I just said the average hospital discharges 2,400 patients a year. So if you have hospitals referring you, you're going to get this kind of referral numbers, which you're going to get this kind of business. That is one of the featured topics at this boot camp. So remember that, all right? There's only 5 of those early bird tickets left. Now, next, how much is this going to cost me, right? Because I want to generate $5 million in a year. It takes money to make money. Actually, you know what? Hold on a second. Let me take a question. All right, let me get my mouse back in the spot. Where's my mouse? Where you at? All right, I see you over here. I see you. All right. So I see you. Finally, there we go. Get those questions up. All right. Someone asking a question here. Oh, lots of good questions. Let me get closer to the screen here. I can't see it clearly. Sorry. You got to open up the screen. It's showing on the screen as well as it's showing with me. This is good. Love you guys. Yes, can't see it clearly. It feels like it's good in theory. I live in a place where my family heavily involved with parents' care. Most of the kids are willing to help with all the patient's needs besides bathing. How can we get 10 to 20 hours a week out of a patient? Logan, it's all about the need and finding out where the person is. Yeah, like whenever somebody tells me there's a lot of people, yes, Logan, there are a lot of people that have that situation. But there's also a lot of people that have no one. This is why you have to get into your hospital. This is why you have to get into those preferred provider groups. So when you find the people who have no one, then you give them that help. Somebody with a massive stroke is somebody who needs a lot of help. Remember I talked about massive stroke before, Logan? And think about it. Massive stroke means that they're going to get help from the second they wake up to the second they go to bed every single night. There are a lot of times where family can't do that. You got to hold the job. And this is something that people will try to do for the first couple of months. But after a couple of months, either you lose your job and you stay home with your parent, or you go back to work. When you have to go back to work, what are you going to do? That is where we come in. We help to make this possible and keep our seniors out of the nursing homes. That's what we're focused on doing, right, with the home care. Michael asks, when do you increase your rates on existing clients as well? That has nothing to do with this, but I say do a competitive analysis. Find out what you're charging. If you're charging anything below the average, increase it to the average or $1 over the average and just increase it straight across the board. I help one of my mastermind clients who does 4,000, 5,000 hours a week in revenue, in billable hours, 4,000, 5,000 hours a week. Got her to raise her rates $2 an hour. She's going to make $800,000 in straight profit this year just from having her increase her rates because she was undercharging by $2 an hour. Dorothy asks here, is this a non-medical home care only? Well, this number, yeah, is what I'm talking about from that standpoint. Now, for the Medicare, the skilled agencies that exist out there, if you want to be able to grow your business and get the referral numbers are still the same, though. We're still talking about in your territory that I just mentioned here. If I have 500,000 people in my territory, there's going to be 5,000 people who are suffering from 5 or more chronic conditions who are going to go home. But for the home health, the skilled side, you're going to multiply it by 5 because you're looking for anybody who was hospitalized. So if you have 500,000 people in your service area, 25,000 of those people are going to end up in the hospital age 65 plus. That's your pool of candidates. The sky is the limit. Get those referrals, my friend. So just do the numbers, apply it to your business. It all works. That's why I like to cover that with that max referral potential. So this is good stuff, all right? So I'm going to continue. How much is this going to cost me? How much is it going to cost me to generate this kind of business? I'm running out of time here. I want to end on time for you. I have to go to an appointment myself. I got other things I got to do too. So we're going to end on time. Small Business Administration says that you should spend 7 to 8% of your total annual revenue on all things sales and marketing. Now, 7 to 8% of $5 million is a lot. I'll tell you right now, times, let's go 8%, right? Times 0.08. Whoops. $5 million times 0.08, that's $400,000. Let me tell you right now, you do not have to spend $400,000 to generate these type of leads, all right? Here's what we're going to do here. We're going to see what Home Care Pulse says. They say that for every client acquisition, just a client, because you're going to have to spend money on other things too. A client is one. I'm going to talk about the caregiver crisis in another. Caregiver crisis, and the cost of getting a caregiver, the cost of getting a client is about the same. So with this number I'm going to share with you to get the clients is half of your cost, because the other half of it is to get the caregivers. All right, so you're going to double this number. I'm going to show you in a minute. So when you look around the country, this is the cost to get a client, all right? And for whatever reason, I don't know why the South is so much to get a client. That just doesn't make sense to me. When all the others are somewhere between 4 and like 600, the South is really, really high at 650, but whatever. It is what it is. The Great Lakes is very, very low. That's a little bit lower than what I think, so I guess they just offset. But basically, this comes out to about $525 for every client that you bring on. It costs you $525 to get that client to become a client. So just doing the math here, I got to have 300 clients, $525 per client. That's going to cost me $160,000 for the year, roughly. It's like $157,800 and some change, right? So roughly $160,000. Now it also, so I got to get caregivers to provide the service. So that's also going to cost me another $525 per caregiver for another 300 caregivers. So now my total cost to get and have this business is going to be $320,000. All right, so just throwing out. So I said $400,000 based on the Small Business Administration. In this case here, to get the clients is $160, but to fulfill it is be another. So it's actually closer. That's about 7%, 6.5%, 7% of $5 million is your cost to get and fulfill $5 million worth of business. And you know what? $5 million worth of business, it cost me $320,000 to get that, plus the, paying the caregivers, my overhead, and I keep $1 million for myself. That's good numbers. I like those numbers. I spent $320,000 of the $5 million, which is only 6-7%, and I kept $1 million for myself. I like those numbers, and I'm pretty sure you like those numbers too. All right, I got a question that came up. I'll take this question real quick, and then I'm going to fly through. All right, so we got Robert asking me, do you ever have any boot camps in Philly or Jersey? We did boot camps in Philadelphia twice, my friend, but these are national events. Get on a plane, fly to St. Louis. You'll love it. The Arch, it's beautiful. Anyway, let's see, where am I? Okay, so next thing we want to do is tackle the caregiver crisis. All right, now there's no way to sugarcoat this. It's not easy. This is our business. This is what we do. Like when you look at any business, because I look at businesses all the time because we have a small business coaching division. So we get people calling us who are accountants and lawyers and internet SEO specialists and photographers, and what was a lady? She did a graphic design. Like we get everything calling us for help. So I spend a lot of time looking at all businesses. Now, when you look at every single business has this, if I didn't have to deal with whatever it is, this would be a great business. For us, it's the caregiver crisis. That's what it is. Essentially, in a nutshell, we are a staffing agency. We are a recruiting firm. That is what we are in essence at the very, very basic. We have to get people to do work and keep them. That's what we do. Get workers and keep them working. 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 That's what we do. So anybody who's not doing too hot, I'm going to tell you right now, this is a full-time. Recruiting is a full-time effort. The bigger offices, my office at CareChoice, and when I eventually sold the company to the company that bought us, we had like 2 or 3 recruiters, right? They were recruiting. We had 2 or 3 schedulers. You're doing $5 million a year. You're taking care of over 100 patients. You're going to need people doing this. People are doing job fairs. People are posting flyers all over every apartment complex and laundromat in the area. We're on Craigslist. We're on Indeed. We're on My CNA Jobs. We have everything out there. Going to the schools. You want to go into the schools. You want to see something? I'm going to show you this right here. Hanging up on the wall in my office, I actually have this. All right, you want to talk about going to the schools? Trust me, I used to do this, all right? This right here, you can see it on the screen. This is 2009. I was the Employer of the Year from Lincoln Tech. What is Lincoln Tech? Lincoln Tech has an accelerated LPN program for people who are not registered nurses, but LPNs or LVNs, depending on where you are in the country. And it was like an 18-month course, and I would come in and I would speak to the students all the time. And when I came in, every single student was a CNA trying to get their LPN. So I would go to the school, I would hire their people, or there were people who were LPN qualified, but they refused for whatever reason because they were scared, they were nervous, they would not take their NCLEX exam, which is what it takes to become a nurse. And it used to blow my mind that you would spend $25,000 to get a certification, but not take the test that gives you your certificate so that you can be an LPN. But they had something like 22% or 23% of their graduates, so they graduated, but they never took the NCLEX exam. The schools get federal money and they get new students to come in by how well they place people in employment. So I would go to Lincoln Tech, and I must have hired like 25, 30 caregivers in 1 year from this one school. And that's why they gave me this award. I still speak there at graduations every once in a while because I love doing all that stuff. So, but I just want to throw it out there. Recruiting is a full-time effort. We have to do it. Don't complain about it. Just find a way to do it. But I want to show you something. All right, this had me floored when I saw this the other day. All right, look at that caregiver turnover ratio. Look at that. 2000. Now, my company, we were 30%. All right, we were 30%, so we were better than these numbers, all right? But 65%, Aaron, who is the owner of Home Care Pulse, put out an article a couple weeks ago that the numbers have gotten worse. So it's actually 67, 68% turnover ratio. That means that for every 3 caregivers we hire, 2 of them, we hire them, and they work, but then they turn over and we lose them. We don't keep them. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? It's craziness, right? Now look at this. Here's some crazy things, just a food for thought. The financial lifetime value of a caregiver is $15,000 for the leader. So the leaders, their clients are worth $16,500, but the caregivers are only there for $15,500, which means that their clients stay on services longer than they keep a caregiver. That is a huge problem. That's terrible. That's terrible. I would rather you focus on keeping your caregivers and bringing in new caregivers, but being selective, than just constantly bringing in caregivers and churning and burning. That's how we burn our industry. That's how we make our industry bad. I love my seniors. I love our industry. You want to see something right here? This is my book. I wrote the book, Why We Care. I'm the lead author on this book. I got 8 of my other clients on this book with me talking about how to choose the right home care agency, 25 case studies. All the stories of all the things that we do for our clients are all written in this book. All right, this is fantastic. So trust me, I know what I'm talking about with this. But we got to take better care of our caregivers because this is an issue and all across the country. Now, I will say, just looking at the median numbers, you can look on because you should see both the webcam and the actual screen for those of you who are having a hard time seeing. But you should see that the Northeast is better than the rest of the country at turnover ratio, where the Northeast represents 50% turnover ratio. The rest of the country, the West Coast is 60%, and everywhere else is 70% or higher. You got the Great Lakes and the Central, they're almost 80% turnover ratio. And I know why it is. Okay, it's not that the Northeast is great, and I live in New Jersey, so we know how to keep our caregivers. No, it's the time it takes to travel from one case from the caregiver's home. That's what it is. So if I'm in the middle of Utah, where I have a 500,000 population, but that's over the course of like 200 miles, it's hard for me to keep caregivers. I'm pulling in from all across my state. That is the challenge that we face with caregivers. Now, one of the things that I do with our clients, one of the things I talk about at the Bootcamp is all about what's called proactive recruiting, proactive marketing. In the Part 2 webinar, I will talk more about this marketing in pockets where you have caregivers and you set up satellites and you do vendor fairs, you do all those things. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in the Part 2 of how to generate $5 million a year, because that's how you can help with your turnover ratio. But wait, it gets better. Look at this. This is why caregivers stay. This is how caregivers wish to be recognized, okay? Verbal recognition by a supervisor. How often do you compliment your caregivers? Not enough. Guarantee it. Vacation time, bonuses, perks, gift cards, the perks of the job. Some people are offering PTO days. If you're not, you have to. That's what they want. And they're a person. Pay raise. Okay, you see that? Pay raise. Now, if you're charging below the average price for your area, you can't give a raise. If you're charging the average price, you really can't give a raise because you're charging the average. So you have to charge the above average, which means you have to have skill set, inquiry management, and closing to be able to close a client at an above average rate, because now it's no longer your price that's selling for you. You have to do the selling for you. So if you want to give your caregivers a raise and you want to be the better, like we used to pay our caregivers more than everybody else. So we charged more than most everybody else. Not everybody else, but we were on the higher side of the average. When I left, the average was $21, and I'm charging $23.50, which is $2.50 over the average. And some people complained, and they said, Steve, the guy down the street is $21. Why shouldn't I go with them? And I would say to them, this is in my closing presentation, Bob, you are right. So-and-so down the street is $21 an hour, and you can go with so-and-so. Somebody told you we're the best agency in the area. You know why we're the best agency in the area? Because we pay more than anybody else. Everybody else is paying $12, $11 an hour. I'm paying $13, $14 an hour. So when you have a caregiver who's paid well, how good do you think the care she's going to give is? And they're like, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I assure you, I can't do any better on the price, but we're going to take real good care of your loved one. We are the white glove service provider in the area. And then you know what Bob did? Okay, I had to ask, and he signed on the dotted line because it makes sense. I wasn't $5, $6 an hour or more, but yeah, I was $2.50 over the average, which means I was like $5 over the low. So just think about that. But I could do that because I knew how to close sales, right? I knew how to close. But look at this one. Recognition by the client, recognition by the company. Now, how do you get clients to recognize a caregiver? It's all about your visits. And this is what I call care coordination, all right? Caregivers want to be managed, okay? If you think about the nature of a caregiver, because I talk to clients all the time. I was talking to a client this morning in New Hampshire. One of my clients in New Hampshire, I didn't get into this part of it, but I did get into restructuring and getting rid of minimums and all this other stuff, making the minimums a certain number of hours a week and how to do. I was talking a lot about that stuff with her. But when you look at a caregiver, the common practice is send the caregiver into the house and then visit if there's a problem, visit if they're canceling services, visit at 60 days. That's the common practice. No wonder we don't keep caregivers. Because do you think that caregiver really feels like he or she is working at your organization? No. Do you know my caregivers, why we kept so many of them? Here, look, I think I got, here's a picture of me. Because I got all this stuff on the wall in my office because I'm in my office. Here's a picture of me, one of my caregivers. All right? This was Alice. Love Alice, an amazing, amazing caregiver at one of our holiday parties. We would see our caregivers every week to 2 weeks. Every week to 2 weeks. We had what's called care coordination, people whose full-time job was to go out and just maintain business. So they would go out, put out fires. They would go out, communicate with family. They would communicate with the caregivers, make sure that the caregiver and the client are getting along. All this other great stuff. I'm going to go over all this, how to do it. I'm going to go over all this at the boot camp. But that's what we did. So no wonder our clients stayed on services and they spent on average $28,000 with us, because we were doing what other home care companies weren't doing. When you see your caregivers every week to 2 weeks, you're actually physically managing them. That's how I can give them compliments. And you know what else happens? When I show up or my care coordinator shows up in that house, you know what happens? The client's like, oh, I love Juanita. She's the nicest person ever. Because when can the caregiver and the client really give a compliment to each other? The client can, but most of the time they just say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. But it's when their manager shows up, that's when the client's like, thank you so much. I love Jennifer. I love Alice. I love Comfort. I love Margaret. I love Judy and every other caregiver that you have. When that happens, man, that caregiver feels great. They get appreciated. They're recognized by the client. And you know what you do? When you hear that and you pull your caregiver aside in another room, you say, thank you so much for doing this good job. Keep up the good work. And if this case ends, I want you to know that you will always have work for me, with me and my company. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Boom, boom. That's all they're looking for. That's all they're looking for. I mean, I'm going to go back real quick, right? Go back, right? Recognition by supervisor, recognition by client, company-wide recognition. 3 of the 5 things that caregivers want. 3 of the 5. Care coordination, care coordination, care coordination. And this brings me back to closing here. This is why I want you to come to the boot camp, because I can't do all this over. It's 3 days long. All right, we're talking about 20 hours of content. Plus, it's going to be at a 5-star hotel, the Ameristar Hotel Casino Resort. It's going to be incredible, and the full price ticket is $9.99. We will sell this event out. We sold out the last Millionaires Bootcamp. This is legit. You want to grow your business? I'm doing $2 million. Great. You want to get to $5 million? Here's how you do it. We're doing 1.5. I'm doing $1 million. I can't break this. I've been at $1 million for 10 years. I can't break it. This is how you do it. You train yourself. It's investing in yourself is always a good idea. And so that's the Millionaires Bootcamp. There's detail. And I want to throw this out to you so you know the early bird special is going on right now. It ends on Saturday, and it's only $5.99. That's 40% off. 40% off. That's right, 40% off the full price if you get your ticket before Saturday. Now, I think we only have, how many of those do we have left, Nick? 5 left. So that's it. 5 tickets left at this rate, and then it goes up from there. So grab one of those last couple of tickets. Don't wait on it. You got till Saturday. But really, if those 5 tickets are gone, that's it. Then it's full price from there. All right. So I want to thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you being here with me today. On a side note, for every single person out there, this is Easter. You heard me talking at the very beginning before I started doing the recording that I'm going to be leading a 24-hour prayer vigil tomorrow night, Monday, Thursday through Good Friday at my church. If there's anything you want me to pray for you, you could let us know. I'll definitely be glad to pray for you. You're all in my prayers anyway. I love you. I think about you every single day. You are the reason I get up and I do what I do every single day. For my fellow brothers and sisters in Christ, happy Easter. He is risen. He is risen indeed. Hallelujah. And for everybody else out there, my Jewish friends, happy Passover. And for everybody else, just God bless you. Have an amazing weekend. And I want to see you in St. Louis. I'll see you in St. Louis. Don't forget, part 2, May 9th. Register for it now. Make sure you're on it live, because live is where it's at. I'll talk to you soon, my friends. Take care.